vertical axis as well. So purely on a kind of physics and anatomical level, when we stand in a pose, something like a Tadasana, right, at the front of our mat, palms joined, and maybe we're instructed to stand very, very stationary, very still, like a mountain, like the very namesake of what it is. And you may notice that there's like this continual bobble that occurs. We counter a bit over here, which sets off another chain reaction that has us go over here. And there's this perpetual maybe search or elusive process of centering. It's a rare moment when everything just comes to a stop. There's always this perpetual. And what is it that we're centering around anyway? In the verse, like what makes this whole process possible? And again, we're still in the kind of material conversation here, so that might sound something like the force of gravity, or the center of the earth, or the hot. Apparently, there's some relationship between the hot molten core of the earth and gravity. I don't know all the details, to be honest, but something about the center of the earth and gravity. And then what then is the center of the earth orienting around? Well, maybe it has something to do with this larger orbit around the sun, and then the sun has its own larger rotation, and then we're one arm on the Milky Way and that's spinning, and so on like this. There's this perpetual echoing of this center principle amidst these kind of larger expansive loops of centering. So one meditation in your Tadasana could be, oh, here I am sort of trying to find that pinpoint in this great cosmic cycle that echoes all the way back to something like the Big Bang, which might be the original center of all this and what came before, and so on, right? Like, so yoga invites us to think in this proportion, in these scales, on these kind of trans-individual dimensions, and reflect on the potent forces of nature in which we are immersed, right? And on say metaphysical level, there's an accounting of the spine as the supreme, say, axis of awareness, like that our psychological patterning is embedded or encoded within the central spinal axis in the form of the chakra system, and moreover through the meridian system. So the tradition describes a line of energy that runs from the base of your spine all the way up into the midbrain, and its namesake is Sushumna Nadi, or the central axis. And it's revered, and there's mantras that speak of the Sushumna Nadi. Right? Here is the ascending pathway, or descending pathway for that matter. This is the axis of awareness. And the classic orientation of the Hatha Yoga is to channel more and more pranic energy, or life force energy. Same stuff you're breathing right now, in and out. This is life force, but cultivate it in such a way that it's inclined to inhabit more and more the central axis, and thereby expand your capacity for awareness and insight and evolution and spiritual growth, right? So that's the kind of subtle body, esoteric anatomy of spiritual evolution, right? Is baked into our kind of form and structure. The only thing that might be missing is something of a user's manual. Like, how do you go about all those things? How do you direct prana into Sushumna, right? And well, lo and behold, that's where things like asana uh, could come into play, and pranayama, and exactly the kinds of things that we'll work with this evening. Yeah. All right. Home friends, peace. Let's start on all fours.